Yeah. Or that, or you remember something just remember that you had 10 years.
Jay, what I think you need to do is get one of them tables that are on wheels, and you can just wheel in, wheel out.
A big gun case.
There you go.
Are
I see 9 o'clock. Are we 9 o'clock on that side? So we're ready to roll? Supervisor Valenzuela leads the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Chaplain Bradley, good to have you here today.
Good to be here. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for opportunity to do the business of government locally. We're truly grateful for those who serve. We give you praise for all that you do. And even today, Father, as the sun and rain, we truly enjoy where we live. Thank you for blessing us in that way. For those who serve in our county, give them strength, give them encouragement, and may we continually lift them up and be supportive of them in all that they do. Thank you for our supervisors and the decisions they need to make. We pray for wisdom and understanding. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
The board will be convening today as the Siskiyou County Flood Control and Water Conservation District and receives no additional compensation. So, okay, we'll go ahead and do roll call. Supervisor Hill.
Present. Chris. Present. Present. Here. For item 4, presentations from the public. This time slot is for information from the public. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters presented at this time. You will be allowed 3 minutes for your presentation. The chair can extend the time to 5 minutes for appropriate circumstances. Written comments can be presented if so desired by providing a minimum of 7 copies to the clerk. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. Please address the board as a whole through the chair. Comments should be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the board. And I have a couple of public comments. If you do have a public comment at this time, there are 2 cards that will there be filled out and to our CAO will be able to acknowledge it. One of the things I do want to announce today, in case you are here for it, is item 6A. In the board service, they will not be here today. We're rescheduling. So if you're here for that, if you will not be that one. All right. So public comment. We'll start with Clayton Wasosa.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. I know we've talked a couple times. I'm here again. Love coming on up. I'm very excited. Next Friday is our first party. Oh, Clayton Raposa. I'm the lead negotiator for the IHSS program for SEIU 2015. And I'm super excited. Our first negotiations is next Friday where I'm leading. And I believe we are going to have a pretty good session. I have a statement here from one of our members who wasn't able to be here today. Their client is sick. So I'm just going to go ahead and read that. She says, it's nearly impossible to work as an IHSS provider. Minimum wage is ridiculous for the amount of work that needs to be done, the skill that is required, and the rush pace that the work needs to be done in because the recipients are never given the number of hours required to meet their grade needs. Also, recipients are very low income and often cannot afford to purchase adequate cleaning tools, do not pay for mileage on the provider's car. The paperwork is a nightmare. Labor laws regarding timing of pay do not apply. The resources, such as the state 800 number, are admittedly limited, and what they can do, and the county resources are even less. So we all know that fast food went up to 20, and I've been working in nursing homes and IHSS for a long time. In 22, we were looking at like $18 an hour was a really good wage for a CNA. Now you can't get them to go into the door for less than 22 bucks an hour. And I know you guys can't get anywhere near matching that, but it's insane how quickly the labor costs have gone up all over the state. Unfortunately, the people who get left behind and who are the worst off for IHSS are the clients. And those are the most vulnerable folks in your county. Their only other option is to go to a nursing home. We know there aren't a lot here. I represent, I think the only one in Weed, which might be the only one in the whole county. Might be another one, but those beds are not going to be adequate to keep people in the county if they can't stay in their own homes. And so I get that $20 is going to be way too big of a jump, but we got to be able to do something to help keep IHSS workers working in this county, and most importantly, those clients in their homes. I mean, all of us want to be in that place when we get old, that we can stay at home and pass away there. Unfortunately, if the program doesn't see a little bit of improvement, we're going to see a lot of workers leave, and folks who could stay in their home won't have someone to take care of them. They're going to have to go to a nursing home, more than likely out of the county, far away from their friends and family. And that's just, I work in nursing homes. It's not something I want to see for anybody, even if they're a good nursing home. They're not great. So that's just what I want to leave you guys with. And I really appreciate you guys being very responsive to us and listening. It seemed like you were always really listening. So I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. She preferred to stay anonymous. Thank you.
Jim.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jim Leach. I live on Central 30. Fortunately, I've had a lot of experience with the people on Tasco Lake and River. And what I see is I'm seeing a lot of PTSD symptoms coming out. What I'm wondering, the county could reach out to the people with some mental health services, probably some group therapies. Made some new friends. I've been through the PTSD cycle, and I see a lot of red flags. I don't know if anybody's ever considered that. I know the KRRC doesn't care about the humans. And it's up to the county. Maybe we could help take care of some of these people. I would really appreciate it. On a second note, I would also like to see something that says it's okay to water your lawn, the river water. Can we irrigate our fields for our cows? And I've never seen a direct statement from anybody other than water quality, so everything's fine. We could issue a statement that the public could see, stating that it's okay to use that water for agriculture or water. It's just not knowing that really doesn't help people. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Just so everybody knows, there is something in the process on the website. He's reached out to the UC extension regarding livestock UC irrigation water and irrigated traffic. They are in touch with their animal toxicologist that usually do this. The initial response was not that detailed, but I'm expecting more.
Any other public comment? In-house? Anyone online?
Showing none online.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Through the chair. I apologize. There is one online.
Battery 100%.
Chrissy, it's your turn to speak.
Good morning, Chrissy. Good morning, Chrissy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Chrissy Reynolds, Copco Lake.
Chrissy, it's your turn to speak.
Good morning. Chrissy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Chrissy Reynolds, Copco Lake. Thank you, board, for once again coming. Oh, sorry. Okay, Chrissy Reynolds, Copco Lake. Thank you, board, for once again coming to the aid and health and welfare of the people and the wildlife of Siskiyou County. I want to commend the board on being proactive and reaching out to FERC and bringing these important issues to the forefront of what has been an operation of obfuscation and has created mistrust and enmity as we continue through this process. I know I was shocked to learn of the permanent fencing mentioned in the letter that has been drafted to FERC. It once again angers me that one, they could have provided fencing to prevent wildlife losses before those deer, elk, and countless other terrestrial lives were lost. It wouldn't have prevented all the aquatic losses, but still, the gunshots and screams of the deer are forever etched in my body. And the PTSD, that is something that I will continue to deal with. And two, the fact that disclosure of the 50-mile permanent fencing is just now coming to light. It's outrageous, and once again, our good neighbors said nothing. Thank you, board, for listening to Siskiyou County, for letting Siskiyou County know what our good neighbors have planned for us. Wow. I want to say that there is a typo on page 3 of the draft in the spelling of the word license in the 3rd paragraph. A correction on page 5 of the draft letter under communication and public engagement is that the letters were sent to some residents and did not arrive until a week after blasting began. Letters dated the 6th, blasting began on the 8th, and we didn't receive letters until the following week. And lastly, I feel that the board needs to address the real fears and worries of the people here regarding the fire management plan and the lack of deep water pools to dip from and the upcoming fire seasons to residents. Now we have the added worry of the planting near what was once water with zero chance of catching on fire to an increased surface area of fire danger and no way to dip water to protect our homes. Our meager hydrant system is fragile at best, and our volunteer fire department cannot carry the weight of increased responsibility. All of the county now is at greater risk with less water, and it is not even mentioned in this letter to FERC. I imagine that the county is working behind the scenes on this issue, but this is a critical issue that needs to be addressed to FERC. Obviously, as part of the unintended consequences of dam removal has been the sediment, we need to know what is being done to prevent a catastrophic failure in fire mitigation. Due to high sediment loads, equipment cannot safely pump water from the river. What is the plan here? Again, I thank the board for being the communication arm for this immense project with a seemingly endless stream of money for those creating the dangers, hazards, and wildlife mortality, while the people with the least continue to bring light to the dark side of this renewal project. Even now, 500,000 more fish will be experimented upon, and we will just have to watch and wait.
Anyone else online?
Showing no others online.
All right, we'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda.
F is in front.
Anyone else? I'd like to pull H. If nothing else, to move to approve the rest. Thank you. Second.
Fraser Howard.
Aye.
Fraser Donald.
Yes.
Fraser Chris.
Aye.
Fraser Oakridge. Aye. Fraser Thompson.
Aye. Item 5, F.
Good morning, Shannon, and members of the board. Sarah Flores, Health and Human Services, and my name is Jess Sterling. She was the lead on this project. Good morning.
Can you please talk to us a little bit about this program and how the funding is allocated? Seems like there's an awful lot being funded for administrative costs, not so much for the program itself. And it seems that there is some concern about needles, and not so much about other products, other parts of the program. And it seems to me that there's just a huge amount going to administrative costs. And that's my biggest concern. So can you explain the program a little bit and how the money is allocated and how much you might get? Do you have any idea?
Yes, it's $630,000 until June of 2027. I'm sorry, my name is Jessica Skellen. I'm a project coordinator at Siskiyou. So currently our Health Siskiyou mobile unit lost funding through another harm reduction program, and this will backfill that. So our Health Siskiyou mobile unit goes throughout the whole county. Tule Lake, Happy Camp, Mud Cloud area, Doris, and we provide general health outreach. We provide rapid HIV, hepatitis C testing. We now started a STD testing program, suicide prevention, giving out lockboxes for firearm safety. We do basically all health, harm reduction outreach also. So we also can sign people up for like medical services if they need like any kind of SUD services and they just don't have a means to pay for it. We can walk them through the whole process, do all the referrals. The syringe exchange program is funded under this, but it's like a 10% of what it is. So we go out throughout the whole county and provide all the health services, and that's what this is going to fund. We have been approached by many schools, by many other organizations to come and do Narcan training to talk about fentanyl crisis. We just never had that program before, and that's what we're going to use here. We actually, a few months ago, went to COS, to their housing program, and talked about, partying and students and what a fentanyl overdose looks like. We provided Narcan to all of their staff. It's just a lot more of that kind of overdose education. We provide Narcan to all of the law enforcement, to first responders. That admin is to keep that going. And for the mileage for our van to keep going, this was to backfill what we lost in funding.
So along with this program, we also have the crisis van, but that's not funded through this, that's other funding. Okay. And then is there one other outreach vehicle that we have as well?
There's a community health, like chronic disease outreach van that has just started. So Healthy Siskiyou started back in 2018. And so we've been running that. That's been a success. We go out almost every day of the week. And the Wellness on Wheels is now like a preventative care. They do blood pressure checks, blood sugar checks. So that is just getting kind of going. We like to show up to different events with both of them. We had a Tule Lake event recently that we both showed up. We have translators on board. We can do all kinds of preventative care on there, and hopefully more one day. We're kind of talking about different things, but it's to reintroduce people into the health system that hopefully we can go to Fort Salmon or something, and for somebody that hasn't seen a doctor, how can we talk them through what they can even ask their doctor when they do see them. So that part of that health outreach is different from Healthy Siskiyou, but we're working together. We're working together and trying to make a brand of public health to be trustworthy, and that we do go out, boots on the ground, trying to meet people where they are.
And so all three of these vehicles are countywide. They're not just in YREKA.
Correct.
So that funding is for the whole entire county.
Oh, sure. So I believe Ms. Skill and I, we met way back when the first band, and I remember you being, I've seen them with Fort Jones, I've seen them, is the schedule still the same? Because I think I have
It's still the same.
it's still the same, so, because I know that I looked when it's convenient, I'll go down to the country and see where they park that.
Yes.
I do like the idea of maybe going to the schools with that, because a lot of parents, a lot of people, I think that could be, so. just
Yeah, so at the schools, we get asked, we do have Narcan with our first aid kits, but our staff is nervous about using it. What's the difference between a seizure and an overdose? We just never had a program to put that, so that will fund our people to be able to go in there.
So I think the thing was that we have 3 different vehicles, but they're all separate into separate funding. They don't cross over per se.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Causing me a lot of angst is that forced to follow wasn't built to be able to exchange victims support. But the greater bill here is everything I do want to support. So I hear all the time the needle exchange being good for public health. I like to see it said that, I prove it to me. Because I largely see it as a banking mechanism. And maybe even approved to those who may or may not try something for the first time, easy access. So I'd like to know a little more about that. I'd also like to know about the administration that part of the program for custody of the needles. Is pass out, how does that work? What's the answer can do for people who don't have it?
We can, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a longer presentation. We are very meticulous about our numbers. We count everything that comes in, we count everything that goes out. Our kiosks that we just put in a third one is actually really working. We go in Dunsmere. They had a problem with syringe litter there, and we worked with their city council 2 years ago. And every time we go over there with our van, we empty it out. There's also lancets in there. There's for people that are on diabetic medication, they didn't have any place to throw away their syringes, so we take those in too. So it's not just people that are using drugs. We also take in whatever. You say we're in McLeod, there's a gentleman that brings me gallons and gallons of lancets. So instead of at the landfill, it comes to us to be incinerated. So we have very transparently, we have seen a huge decline in people that are coming to the exchange. So with the fentanyl now hitting our scene about last year, about July time, people are no longer injecting, they are smoking it. Now, how can we save those lives is by giving out the Narcan, by being there, being a friendly face, saying, hey, you went from injecting to smoking, that's a reduction. Now, how can we get you all the way there? What support do you need? Is there a doctor that we can hook you up with? So that is why we still go out there, is for that glimmer of hope of them reducing even down to 0.
Really helped me with regular. Right. Okay, we need to explain it. It would be very nice to know the percentage of users versus the other service. Get that information out to the general public, the river protection it's thoroughly.
I think one of the things with public health, right, is they're grant funded, so they are moving from grant to sustain programs, and it started as a needle exchange, but as Jess has been describing, it's just built into so much more. And, in parallel with just a huge reduction in the number of people that are using IV, drugs. And so we can definitely get those statistics to you.
I appreciate that. Just need to know it's a constant topic.
We know. Yeah. And it sounds like the other piece of what you're saying is that it would be helpful if we work with the PIO in public health to get information out there about the ban that was really focused on the broad program. Okay, we can do that too.
So I'm just going to read here from the resolution that you're proposing. the award of up to $630,000 in funding to syringe service programs for the California Overdose Prevention and Harm Reduction Initiative to promote health and safety of people who use drugs by supporting a range of harm reduction services operated by the state and locally authorized SSPs. In Appendix A, it says that the following will not be funded. And Narcan is one of them, but yet you're saying that Narcan is one of the things that you're going to use. And I get why you would, but this one specifically says that Narcan cannot be funded to this.
We are not going to purchase the Narcan, but the training and the distribution of it is. We get it through the state. It's called a Narcan distribution program. You have to be an established program to be able to receive Narcan. So, for example, I helped the group Tribe get established because we were providing Narcan to them over and over again. You need a procedure. You need to prove that how you're going to distribute. I helped them through that process, and now they can get their own straight from the state. So yes, we are not going to purchase any Narcan, but I order them 1,000 at a time. We set up the trainings, we set up the distributing, and, we contact the sheriff's department. Hey, do you need more? Do you have any expired ones? All that is work that is going to be funded under this. We do not purchase the Narcan directly, no. But there's a process to get it.
So I get that you're backfilling, funding that's going away, but I'm concerned about, and I'm not, this isn't that you don't know what you're doing. I understand how you're going to maneuver in that. I'm just concerned of the restrictions that are there, and what that could mean on a audit. That's where I'm a bit troubled. I also have trouble with the needle exchange program. I don't know how well it's working. I get reports that it's growing. So if we have a program out there, why is it growing? And why would we continue to fund it if it's just growing? I get that there's some good aspects within this that would provide great education, but I don't see the focus. It's more broad ranging thing. I don't know how we would, see the outcome of the proposal. How could we assess the outcome?
Some deliverables, I can, the trainings, the people that we see, the demographics, how many, school districts were provided Narcan. It's basically overdose prevention for everybody. I provided Narcan, for example, and connected with, and it's going to show up to I think it's Ryan's. Oh my gosh, there's a gentleman that lost his son in Mount Shasta, and he contacted us and wanted us to participate in their run. And we just didn't have the funding or anything to participate in, but now we could. We can be creative with doing something different. Maybe you're feeling like our syringe exchange is growing. The syringe themselves is not, but the trust is. I would say we get a lot more people just coming up and just saying, hey, your band's in YREKA. We had a gentleman that had a suicidal neighbor, and he came up to our van and said, hey, do you have any resources? So it's more recognized as that, but we're getting a lot more traffic through, but less syringes are being exchanged. We actually are, every year we've had an uptick of how many we've gotten back. So meaning that we get back more than we give, but our numbers of active people that are injecting are down.
And public health keeps very clean data on this, which we're happy to share. I think one of the challenges with syringe exchange, right, is they're trying to, with syringe exchange, I mean, there's lots of pieces to it, trying to get people into treatment, for instance, but one of the sort of major focuses is trying to stop the spread of communicable diseases, right? So that's not a very direct thread, right? So you have people using clean needles as opposed to sherry needles, and they're not transmitting syphilis, which is on the uptick, right? So it's all of that data exists, but it's not like it's not, like immediately clear. So, but we're happy to provide data on the number of syringes and, you know, all of that, because Jess keeps very
Are we serving
data.
Siskiyou County clients, or are we providing services that, people outside of Siskiyou County are coming here strictly for the service?
No, it's also county residents. We do ask them what zip code they primarily live in. For the 3 hours a week that we do the AI exchange, we do like an intake process. We do ask them if they've ever injected before. If they say no, then we say, I'm sorry, we cannot offer you this service, but we can help you with other things. But so there's a criteria that they have to meet. But they do give, if they do not give a Siskiyou County address, and we try to help them to service outside of the county, which is very rare. So we had a person passing through from Shasta, and we just couldn't help them because they didn't live here.
So when you say you're accessing schools, are you saying there are drugs in our schools?
The schools are requesting Narcan trainings. So they obviously feel there could be a threat there.
And does the training go to the students as well?
We haven't spoken to the school, so they have their own policies and procedures. I would think that we could do like an after school, maybe a parent trainings if they feel comfortable for their students to have that training. It hasn't even been.
Wouldn't you have both? Wouldn't you have that once training for Narcan? Wouldn't you also have some type of training with kids with prevention? Since this, I guess, would go towards that.
It would probably be after hours off of school grounds. I haven't spoken to any of the school districts.
We haven't had any requests for that type of training.
For the student.
If this is going to be funded, I think that's only fair. If that's where it starts. It's kind of offensive, not to you, but that it would even be in schools, number one. But two, would be protected in some fashion, that you could not, for instance, have your department get in to provide education to students. I will leave it at that.
So if I could just follow up, I'll make the motion to accept. One of the things I'm glad to see that the needle exchange is working, because last thing I want to do is see the needles in the parks and all the places that, you know, I think that's a benefit there. I do think moving forward, if you could just start with any of these programs, because you can see the dialogue, give us a baseline data, do a fault where we're doing, you know, where we're making progress, that kind of thing. As far as the schools, my wife works at a school, unless they request it, you can't tell them what to do. So reach out and say, hey, this is available, make sure it's available for them. And I've been recommending this.
I'll just mention too, they have a mobile van that's done by this. That's filling a gap in at least in District 1, for example, Lee Valley doesn't have an FRC right now. So this mobile van is really filling a gap in some areas that are able to have it.
Have a motion and a second.
Okay, Supervisor Help,
Yes, today.
Supervisor Valenzuela,
Absolutely.
Supervisor Chris,
I'll be yes.
Supervisor Ogren. Aye. And Supervisor Thompson.
I'll be an aye with the caveat that I hope that you will reach out to each school and you will report back here which schools won't accept it.
Thank you. I do that.
Item 5H. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Trish Barbieri, Division for Social Services with the Health and Human Services Agency. And I also have Corey Watson, who is Deputy Director for Social Services. She has been working very closely with Social Change on this project, the CalOR project, and she welcomes any questions today.
My questions. Okay, come on up. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
I noticed that in here, there's programs for refugees. Can you explain that?
Yes, and actually, can you show me? I'm not exactly sure, just so that I can see.
It's in
how
the- It's on page 4 of 8. It starts, I think. Might be in 7, 8, right in there.
It's the original contract.
On
The
the-
original contract. So, Social Services through the California Department of Social Services administers a number of programs. Some of them are geared towards refugees. The refugee, I'm trying to remember the program name. It's not coming to me at this very moment, but there is a 1 or 2 programs, I believe, that we currently administer. We don't have any clients enrolled in those programs at this time. The regulations are established by the Department of Social Services. Should we have refugees apply for those programs, we would evaluate their eligibility and provide the support and services and compliance with the program as written by the California Department of Social Services. But we do operate a couple of refugee programs.
So there's 6 in here. Show. And so you're saying none of them are currently active?
I don't have that full contract in front of me. I apologize.
You come here.
Thank you. That would be very helpful. Thank you. I see what you're looking at. An exhibit, and what it is it actually includes the they used to their codes that the federal government provides to us based on the different programs that they administer. By law, we're required to attach this to our contract. It does not imply or mean that we administer each and every one of these programs. It's just a listing of codes that they provide to us, where we have to inform all of our vendors. We have to inform them of the various codes, but these codes we definitely do not administer. I'm trying to remember the name of it. On page 1, they just changed the name not that long ago. Universal. What used to be called? I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, we're just required.
Exhibit C, is that what you're talking about?
Right, but at the top of Exhibit C, it references the title of codes, the title of those particular codes. Do you see that, Wendy? Or maybe I can just look at your hand.
Sure. So, Ms. Barbieri, so,
Yes.
Cory, so I, at least in the way I view this, is if there's criteria for a grant, and it's like, you gotta have it incorporated in the program, whether you use it or not.
Right. California has additional laws above and over what the county has in terms of notifying our vendors of different codes and funding, things of that sort. And we're just required by statute to include this with all of our contracts. And it's the entire list, but we certainly don't utilize every single code.
It wasn't the primary focus to get the grant.
No, not at all. Not at all.
More generic.
Right.
Okay.
They call them assistance listing numbers. And there are hundreds. And this is a code, federal codes essentially. But we're just required to advise all of our vendors of these codes, 8 pages worth of them.
So I get all that. I understand what Supervisor Valenzuela is saying, but there's a point at which, something creeps under the nose under the tent. And then your staff is lo and behold stuck with, oh yeah, it's in the provision. And I guess that's what concerns me, especially with what we're seeing with free healthcare, free housing, free everything for illegal migrants that are coming into the state of California, even homes at interest-free. I don't want us to get stuck under that tent when we have residents that need to be served as well. So that's where I'm headed with that, so that you understand if you can assure me we're not going there, I'm good with it.
They're connected in terms of the only connection would be if we administered all of these programs, and we do not. The state administers many of them. As a background, we did consult with county council, and we have consulted with them for years. Anytime we receive an updated listing of assistance listing codes. And if the board would like, I can provide the most recent guidance that actually shows that county welfare departments are required to provide this information to the vendors.
I'm more concerned, services should be coming to Siskiyou County residents. That's my emphasis.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in bringing in people from the outside that we can't even serve our own people, and then we have yet another population. So that's where I'm headed with that. As long as you understand that, I'm
Understood. And just to be clear, it's just a contractual obligation that county welfare departments have.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome.
One question regarding those.
Yes.
On exhibit C, there's a federal award date and then a period of performance regarding each one of those codes. Some of them are 1 year, some of them are 2 years. Does that carry over with each extension of the contract? Or are those specifically, do those cut off?
I think they're more tied to the oversight that the feds prescribe to the California agencies. And I'm not sure, but I can certainly take that question back and provide you with an answer.
Because in that regard, then most of those don't exist then. They're still in the contract, but
Definitely, we can go back.
2020 or 21, 22, and they are expiring.
Right, and I think the original contract came, when did we initially apply or submit our contract for social change 2 years ago? The original?
It was, I think, in July 1st, or maybe June of 23.
Okay.
Correct.
What I would like to do is go back and work with our contracts analyst to ensure that this is the most updated listing of codes. And if it is not, then certainly we'll come back with an updated listing of codes to ensure that we provide you the most accurate information. You're welcome. And I know the feds, like the state, are behind in a lot of their guidance, and hello, it's sometimes a challenge, but we'll definitely go back and check on that. You're welcome. Lindsay, I think this belongs to you. And yeah.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Yes. Yep, and Supervisor Gallagher. Yep, second.
Right.
Okay. Aye.
Six A, is going to be rescheduled.
So we can officially continue that, and then we'll find out what date they want to bring that back.
If you want to continue it, or you
Yes,
just want to.
continue is easier than the execute it. Put it on the agenda without having to go back to the process.
Next is 7A, General Services Airport. Good morning.
Good morning. Joy Hall, Director of General Services. I'm here to bring before you the airport updates. Construction has started. Yeah. County staff is on site twice daily, and we have a consultant team there all day long. We've had some weather issues that we're working through. Those we are having weekly construction meetings and receiving daily inspection reports there. Our consultants and our grant writers are putting the final touches on our documents so that we can apply for the AWAS in May. The Siskiyou County Airport, both bathrooms will be refreshed, starting with the worst one this week. We're going to do some painting, new flooring, upgrade some lights, and install some new doors, and along with some other things. Yes, yeah, the lights and.
Well, fixtures, I mean, like in toilets and sinks.
Yes, yeah. And then as far as for Happy Camp, I was contacted by the U.S. Forest Service by email and phone call, and they are reaching out to their lands person, and I expect to hear back from them this week about the abandonment plan. That's all I have for you today.
Any public comment? How is it? I know that we've hit a few bumps on the road at Tweed Airport, but I think we're smoothing out a bit.
It's pretty wet out
How
there.
about the pilots that are out there? Are we taking care of them as well as the FBO?
Yeah, the pilots, all of them are, most of them went to Siskiyou or have taken the airplanes elsewhere, but they all have been notified.
And they've been notified of the timeline, current one, and what's on the table, correct?
Correct, when we're gonna receive a brand new one, hopefully by this afternoon.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Item.
I think this one might be a little bit more discussion.
I'm at the B, it's the, FEMA one.
Yes, FEMA.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You want a break, buddy? We'll give you.
Take a break with the audio too.
Okay, so that's fine.
Great. Thank you.
The board of supervisors will. Item 7B. County administration. Oh, sorry, wait, yeah. I'm gonna go back to one of our elected officials as request to provide a public comment. So I want to open the public comments for Mr. Andrews. You can come on up and give us that public comment that you want to tell us.
Well, I appreciate that. I will tell you, I was in court this morning. Sorry I missed it, but the judges are not nearly as accommodating as you. So
Send a memo.
let's get you a robe. So Kirk Andrus, Siskiyou County District Attorney, I appreciate the opportunity to give a public comment. Chairman, thank you for the accommodation. And what I wanted to report on is I know the board has, for years been very interested and concerned with a lot of the different cannabis operations that we're doing to try to maintain and improve the quality of life for Siskiyou County citizens. And the board has put substantial resources that we don't have necessarily plentifully in this county. And so we try to put them to good use. So I wanted to just make a report on how some things are going. When California, with Proposition 36 and 47 and things like that, have reduced many different kinds of crimes to misdemeanors, it really put a fork in law enforcement's ability to enforce through criminal violation and criminal law. So we've tried civil and administrative and using outside civil firms and inside and all kinds of different things. And we're still trying all of those things and having levels of success. But there's an opportunity now to reinvigorate felony enforcement, and it requires one of two things. There are two categories. The first category is environmental, and the second category is tax. And so during this last year, the board approved a general funded investigator from my office to work as an investigator to help us develop those felony cases. And I want to report to the board that this last Tuesday, we had our first 2 felony convictions. And when we convict somebody of these kinds of felonies involving environmental violations, it does a few things. Number one, it puts significant restrictions on the land, but number two, it puts significant restrictions on the person. So the practice has been for them to transfer these lots back and forth. But this kind of an enforcement action isn't limited when the transfer of the title happens, because it goes with the person. And so their friends aren't going to have any more ability to cultivate than they had. And so it's a positive thing. What I wanted to tell you is that part of your investment has allowed us to reach out to the state, because there are some things that California cares about. One of them is the environment, one of them is taxes. And so we're kind of taking advantage of that. And the state's been really helpful to us. So what happens is our team goes out, documents environmental violations. If there is a person there who's a landowner, that is the mother lode of what we want. And we can then tie that person to the land and go through a tax kind of a structure. So this won't take much longer. So we have about 30 felony cases now in the pipeline toward resolution, and more on the way. And the only thing that's stopping us from having more on the way are having people to document these things in the field. The NISBA team works extremely hard. We don't always get environmental reports from them. So the way our cases are structured right now is we're using our investigator to investigate those after the fact. Or we're taking the photos and the documentation that the NISBA team captures and sending those to the State Environmental Board and also the State Tax Commission. They're writing reports, they're providing expertise and expert witnesses we can use in court, and that's how we're getting convictions. So it's actually more of a commitment from the state of California than we've seen in about a decade. But we also, between code enforcement, environmental health, the NISBA team, and our office, are really poised to take this in a positive direction that I don't really see being derailed. There's not really something in our path as long as we get all of our manpower, so to speak, so that we can cover all the spaces. We can do these investigations, we can do environmental investigations in the field of business. So I feel better about this than I have in a long. We've had a lot of good things happen in different departments, but this is a convergence that I think is gaining momentum. And I want to report to the board on that. We're really excited about the felony convictions, and we've got 30 more in the pipeline that will be used, and a limitless stream that if we can get all of our resources pulled in the same direction to follow behind those.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 7B, county administration.
Good morning, board members. Elizabeth Nielsen, Deputy County Administrator. Earlier this month, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, referred to as FEMA, sent a letter and updated preliminary flood insurance rate map panels and flood insurance study report to Chair Cobseth. Just to help the board and the public out, FIRM is the official map of a community on which FEMA has delineated the special flood hazard areas, the base flood elevations, and the risk premium zones applicable to a community. And the FIS is a compilation and presentation of flood risk data for specific water courses, lakes, and coastal flood hazard areas within a community. When a flood study is completed, the information and maps are assembled into an FIS. The FIS report contains detailed flood elevation data and flood profiles and data tables. So again, earlier this month, FEMA sent a letter and an updated FIRM and FIS report. FEMA is seeking the county's response to these documents by April 28th, 2024. Understanding that there is public concern regarding changed floodplains following dam removal, I wanted to bring this item to the board today. Community Development has reviewed the portions of the FIRM and the FIS surrounding the Klamath River, and they have confirmed that there is no new mapping along the Klamath River corridor. As has been communicated by FEMA to the county, new floodplain mapping for the Klamath River below the dams will occur several years following completion of dam removal. Community Development has also confirmed that the new LiDAR-based mapping data used in the development of these documents has significantly improved. Baseline flood elevations are much more identifiable and more user-friendly, which will help people to more easily get flood elevation certification. Today, I'm seeking the board's direction for staff to draft a comment letter, if necessary, to FEMA and authorize the chair to sign this letter. This may not be necessary now that Community Development has reviewed the documents. And at this point, they don't have any significant feedback, and we know that the documents do not address the Klamath River corridor. I'd also like to express my appreciation to Rick Dean, who took the time to perform a review of this so that I would have this information for today's board meeting regarding the Klamath River. With that, I'm open to any questions from the board and direction, and then staff will determine before the 28th if a letter is needed. Yes. Yes.
And I don't know the answer. Was this? What if they did? Does this change anything regarding like jurisdiction? Agricultural production, ag land adjacent to rivers?
I do not know the answer to that question. That's a good question. I'm not sure if that is something we will look into and determine. Yes.
Thanks for the Of course, the climate support, the flood zone potentially changing there. All those factors we have to take into effect. Another part of District 1 that has to deal with this is the cloud.
Yes. Yes.
Just the flood zone that's changed there. Mike Crawford, when he was musician that he had working for the county, had worked on the flood zone area for the cloud. And I said that he memorialized it on the paper for the outburst. So according to that, the Brian Simone, as well as They're all focused on those resolutions. In regards to this, any source of funding to mitigate potential flood troubles we may be having in different areas.
I did not see a reference to any source of funding to address those issues, no.
Yeah, this is I might pay to reach out to Amos McKeever. He's with I'm not saying the last name right. He's the service district manager for McLeod. In regards to their issues, they may welcome some sort of comments from us. I can connect you guys together on this. In the flood zone, when they redid it several years back, before I was on the board, it incorporated a large area into it that wasn't in it originally. So people have bought homes, and of course the flood insurance is so high. And it's not the same concern that we might publish a cap to be removed from it. So
Yes, we will get in contact
all right,
with them.
right, thanks.
So you need direction?
Yes,
If
please,
needed.
if needed, correct, it
So
looks
is
like
that
there's,
to be in the form of a motion.
And maybe you could, Natalie, when you get back on county council, you could put a little bit of like a description on it. So to the extent that there's technical errors or corrections that need to be commented on.
so if there were a letter submitted, it would be to address any technical errors or address any specific concerns to what Supervisor Hout brought up regarding wetlands, or what Supervisor Chris brought up concerning the district. At this point, it wouldn't include anything related to the plan for corridors. There's some changes.
So is this the final, and this isn't going to change?
No, this is not the final. This is the draft, and FEMA opened a 30-day comment period, or we were asked to respond within 30 days of receiving the letter.
So. There's not been changing. I idea what Mother Nature is gonna bring us in the future. This could be a 5 or 10 year process to see where that river bed is gonna end up. How do we move forward with this? When is this process going? Just how long is it going to be before there is a final picture of what this is gonna look like?
So the process for assessing flood zones or updated flood zones for the Klamath River corridor following dam removal will be separate from this process. When we received this letter in the documents, we anticipated there could be some information in there regarding the Klamath River corridor. Understanding this is a very hot topic. We reviewed, we added this item to the agenda since comments are due by April 28th, and then community development reviewed those. But I wanted to bring to the public that in these documents, there is not anything related to flood zone changes within the Klamath River corridor associated with dam removal. That will be a separate effort by FEMA following dam removal.
So. Motion with regard to that? Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought of something. Does this change our planning phase letter? For planning purposes and building. So the FEMA project on the river will.
If you would please, Rick Dean, Community Development Director, re-ask the question, please.
Will this process they're doing right now change description of property that will affect the ability to build on it?
What it does is it identifies essentially the 1%, the 100-year floodplain, and also the 500-year floodplain, assigns different more accurate benchmark elevations for the structure construction.
Right, so the insurance piece that comes in, any structure that's built within a floodplain has to be elevated by the 100-year floodplain and identified. Really, process is the same, in the area of Scott Valley, which is really the only area we can improve. It is much more better. It's easier for a building department to identify the location of the house relative to the benchmark elevations, right? In the past, where the gray areas are there, have to get a surveyor to come out there and actually survey it and cost constituents more money. So it just makes it a bit more efficient and accurate in the Scott Valley area. Continue to improve throughout the county. It's all focused on structures within the floodplains, identifying where those elevations are, making certain that the structures are elevated above that level. That answers the question. I guess what more specifically, my house is here. I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow and have my house. It's the line here, and now over here and I'm in the floodplain, but. Yeah, I hate to go into those details, but historically there are, misnomers out there where homes are not dialed in on their benchmark elevations, so we're trying to go back and clean up. Basically, we're leaving those alone unless the insurance companies are coming forward and identifying. It's not exact science.
Comments, questions? Huh? I'm looking for a motion first. So if you want to motion, then your motion. Second.
Yes.
To provide direction.
Recommended motion
There isn't.
is on the worksheet.
Let's see where I have here. Yes. If needed, I guess is the only thing.
So the motion would be to submit a letter if needed that would address Supervisor Haupt's questions regarding wetlands and agricultural impacts, and to include Supervisor Chris's comments regarding impacts to the McLeod area.
Mainly for McLeod, just for standing, something happened all the time. I believe there were some homes there that were part of the flood zone that got to be removed. And then there was homes that got placed in. After that.
Motion can say write the letter.
Okay.
To draft and submit, would that be better?
Correct.
Draft and submit the letter if needed. To address Health and Chris's concerns.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
All righty, Supervisor Haupt.
Aye.
Supervisor Valenzuela.
I suppose.
Supervisor Chris.
Aye.
Supervisor Ogren. Aye. And Supervisor Post.
Aye. All right, we're at 7C.
Good morning, again, Board. Elizabeth Nielsen, Deputy County Administrator. Before the board today is a draft letter to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. At the direction of the board, the county has been engaging informally with FERC regarding outstanding concerns and issues related to Klamath Dam removal. Unfortunately, informal communication has not resolved many of the issues, and it has become clear that due to the breadth of topics expressed to FERC by the county, a formal letter would be the best course of action in hopes of getting our issues addressed. To be clear, the purpose of this letter is to articulate to FERC the county's primary concerns and unaddressed issues related to dam removal, and to make certain requests to FERC to resolve these issues. In many of these instances, the county has been unable to resolve these issues through coordination with the dam removal entities. Rather than detailing the entire letter, which is rather lengthy, I want to touch on a couple of main topics in the letter, and the public is of course welcome and encouraged to read the letter in its entirety, which addresses several other topics. The county has raised concerns about the Klamath Mitigation Fund to KRRC, the state of California, and the Klamath Mitigation Fund administrators on multiple occasions. These concerns have centered around the lack of adequate communication from the administrators to potential claimants, the parameters for what will be compensated, and who is eligible for compensation, and the deadlines for claimants to seek funding, which in most cases, these deadlines have already passed, even though impacts from dam removal will be realized years after the project is completed. More detail related to these issues can be found in our draft letter. These issues have largely gone unaddressed, so we must document them, as the Klamath Mitigation Fund is the only current avenue that can and must make residents whole from the impacts of dam removal. Our requests to FERC include the following: that FERC require the Klamath Mitigation Fund to be reopened and allow community members to continue to file claims as further project impacts are realized, which may require the Klamath Mitigation Fund to remain open for up to 10 years following dam removal. Payments of claims must also be in an amount to make filers whole from the impacts of dam removal and should not include a cap for funding. For example, a maximum amount of $5,000 per well. We are also asking FERC to require that any remaining funding in the Klamath Mitigation Fund be used for community impact mitigation. For example, those who paid to test their groundwater wells should be reimbursed for these costs. We are also requesting that FERC require KRRC to assess other outstanding project impacts and include coverage of these impacts in the fund. We are also requesting that KRRC, or that FERC rather, require that KRRC or the Klamath Mitigation Fund provide the source of funding for the Klamath Mitigation Fund, the amount of original funding, and the funding expended thus far. Another topic of note in our letter is the critical energy / electrical infrastructure information, referred to as CEII. CEII is a designation through FERC intended to protect critical infrastructure that is classified as national security information. KRRC has continued to file many of their submittals to FERC under this designation. As described throughout our letter, the public and the county are concerned with KRRC's lack of adequate and timely information regarding construction activities on site. It is well known that this project is the largest dam removal in United States history and has definite and immediate impacts. Transparency is key. We understand that there may be certain situations where CEI is needed to protect critical information. However, power generation at any of the facilities concluded in by January 2024, and the reservoirs have been drawn down. Project reports filed by KRRC to FERC must be available for informational and public safety. In many instances, it is left to the public and the county to discern what is occurring on site, as correspondence filed by FERC in response to KRRC's redacted reports only gives us half of the story. I feel that it is important to outline a recent example of these issues that I'm broadly touching on. Recently, KRRC issued a public release targeting, quote, misinformation shared by local news outlets, stating that such information causes confusion among the public, and KRRC has attempted to correct this information with their release. However, the public has only the correspondence filed by FERC in response to KRRC to ascertain information about the project. Had KRRC been more transparent about project activities, this in itself would have cleared public confusion. We have asked KRRC many times in the past to be more transparent through meetings with the public and regular public notices. However, our requests have gone largely unanswered. Therefore, through our letter, we ask that FERC do the following: require KRRC only to use CEII designation on portions of project submittals that include national security information. Our goal in making this request is that the county and the public have an accurate and timely avenue in which to obtain information, important information related to the project. In summary, my request to the board today is to approve the letter and authorize Nossaman LLP to submit the letter to FERC in substantially the same form that is before the board. which means that there will be some minor corrections and edits to the letter. These would include citations that Nossaman will include, footnotes that Nossaman will include, formatting to fit their letter formats, and addressing a few grammatical errors. As a reminder, Nossaman LLP intervened in the FERC proceedings on the county's behalf. Therefore, they will be submitting the letter for the county. With that, I'm open to any questions from the board.
Questions from the board?
Thank you for the letter. It's very detailed. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's a lot of work. Put that together. The I guess the most glaring issue I see for us interactive real-time communication between OES and whoever would make a call with Gareth has been reluctant to even participate in that. And I'm not confident that they're the right entity. We communicate in the sense that we have. So I'm just asking a question, is that response or communication to the county better handled by a state or a federal government agency or by the contractor? Because contractors, you know, try to minimize things rather than allow us to be proactive upfront.
And we do address emergency services in this letter. I would need to go through and find where we have specific requests related to that. In regards to would the state be a better avenue than KRRC? I'm not the one to answer that, but I will coordinate with our emergency services director. Understood. Understood, and we do detail in this letter requests that the board has specifically made related to emergency services to KRRC at public board meetings, and how those have either been addressed or in most circumstances unaddressed.
The next thing that's missing in the letter, included in the record, is the recent communication from KRRC to the board. So they're no longer going to participate with us.
An email or on Thursday, April 11th, following the closing of the agenda, where KRC's executive director, Mark Branson, stated that they would no longer be participating in the biweekly public information and permit meetings. These are internal meetings between KRRC and county staff, and that they are also reconsidering participation in the board's monthly special board meetings on dam removal. We can incorporate that letter or email.
Yeah, please do. And then the remaining is testimony from the real. Putting the dispatch system coming the fire season, you have to receive any response from them, and I'm very concerned that we're going to rely on something.
Yes.
I don't know what the language is really better, but relying on the water in the river, if side as in the fire plan.
Yes.
Can I address that real quick? Sure. So I was down in Escondido, and a vendor came up to me when I was down there for the state association wildfire mitigation plan. I guess I asked him to reach out to Brian Chanel. Basically, how I interpret this giant swimming pool, they set these places up. Yeah, but it's grant funded, so.
I understand.
But again, I'm just saying that, there are ways to help mitigate.
Well, there are, what I'm responding, what I'm addressing.
Well, I think his premise was they set this up ahead of time for the season.
Oh, okay.
That was the premise. That's what he conveyed to me.
That would work.
And I asked him to reach out to Brian Chanel.
Yeah, but that's not what KRC provided.
I'm just trying to tell you that, we're trying to work, I'm working at all fronts.
Yeah.
I thought we had some of the,
They provided the equipment, but not the installation and maintenance.
okay. I go to you, Chris, Supervisor Chris. Just a quick question on the email from Mr. Branson regarding not participating. Is there a reason why?
So I will read that. I will read the email. Yes. Good morning. After recent, let me back up. This is the email from Mark Branson on Thursday, April 11th. Good morning. After recent events and internal discussion, KRRC is electing to no longer attend the county's proposed bi-weekly public information and permit meetings. Permitting issues are rarely discussed, and the county's recent water quality memo and the county's recent actions have made it clear to us that there is not a shared interest in relaying timely and accurate information to Klamath River communities. It does not behoove any of us to dedicate time to these meetings on a regular basis when the outcome is the perpetuation of inaccurate information about the project. If you have any questions about the project, please reach out to Ren and me via email, and we will respond to your questions in a timely manner. We are also willing to meet with the county as needed if an agenda is provided in advance. The Renewal Corporation is also reconsidering our participation in the board's monthly special meetings on dam removal. Elizabeth, when you have some time, I would like to have a conversation with you about this issue to see if we can determine whether or not our participation can be more efficient and productive for all concerned. Mark Branson.
Thanks, Mr. Basically, what the residents are asking is just that whole post-project. They have it operating well or operating the road to get to their place. It is going to be kept whole. As a county conservatives, not our job if we ended up filling the gap, but the county could serve as a connector between co-licensees and residents. Board members serve as a venue to share that information. I think we can be a connector to connect people together to get the services and give that place where it needs to meet the needs of our constituents.
Yes, yes, thank you for that.
No.
Side eye.
Well, I'm just seeing if you have any comments.
I'll find the letter.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting this letter together. It is very thorough and it hits so many of the things we've been talking about for so long. Public safety, I think, is paramount to what we've been talking about all along. Fire suppression, to reiterate what Supervisor Howe said, I think is really, really critical. Whether it be through those dip tanks that I know South YREKA has been given, and I know they talked about bringing them up to various areas up around Copper Lake Village. And also the fact that the sediment has filled in those deep pools. We need to look into that. One of the items that I know KRRC has stated is that they're willing to do one more water quality test in late April or early May. And I believe that we have requested that they continue to do water quality testing, and whether that's going to come from RES moving forwards or KRRC, I believe that is really important that continues. So I'm not sure how we address that.
So in the draft letter, we do include the board's recent proclamation related to water quality and potential air quality is included as an attachment to this letter. And then we put in the body of the letter, our request to the state, and we're asking for it to assist us in there. We did not include KRRC's commitment to perform one round of water quality testing. We could include that. And so we will include that in the letter.
Thank you. And one of the other things about the mitigation fund that, and I don't know if we want to go down this path or not, but, you know, we've heard constituents and the property owners up around the project talk about potential health problems that are beginning to show up. And everything we've talked about is regarding wells, property, but we haven't addressed health problems. We haven't looked to the future regarding potential problems. And if we're talking about air quality and water quality, how is this going to impact the health of the people that live around the project? And I'm not sure if we want to include anything in this letter regarding that and the mitigation fund. I'm not sure if it's worth putting a sentence in there, because if we don't, well, we won't be able to address it later. But if we open that door, we can move forward with it later.
Understood. And so if we were to include that, I would foresee that the proper place to include that would be in our request, where we ask FERC to require KRC to evaluate other impacts of dam removal and include them in the Klamath mitigation fund. And we could, at the board's direction, include that item as an example or specifically in there.
Afraid if we don't open the door, then we will never be able to. So,
anything further? So two things for me, three, I guess. One, I think the request should be for continued water monitoring. Is that what we're asking? I don't think this one-time thing is going to cut it. I think to be transparent from the project proponents, that should be a no-brainer. They should be taking care of it. So
Understood. We can make that more clear in the letter.
It's not the county's responsibility. It's not our reach.
Correct.
And basically, it's just to keep everything factual so that there isn't a lot of rabbit trailing on what's going on. And I don't understand the complication of doing more monitoring so that it can protect the water quality. The other thing is with regard to what we talked about with the FEMA letter. Are we talking about the floodplain with regard to FERC as well? That we have an unknown, and we'll have an unknown now for a while.
So we addressed that in the mitigation fund portion of this letter, that floodplain mapping will not occur until years after dam removal, and that the Klamath mitigation fund needs to address that. In regards to discussing like the technical pieces of what FEMA is doing or their actions, we don't discuss that specifically in this letter, but we do discuss it as it relates to the Klamath mitigation fund, which, you know, the county has expressed many times, the board has expressed many times, is an outstanding issue.
Okay. And then lastly, I'm debating whether to even speak this, but I think it has to be. Well, I will say that I'm sure that the 800 and some odd thousand fry that died with the release a few weeks ago was accidental. I'm not convinced that it was otherwise. I'll leave it at that. But I think that the very nature of dam removal to provide fish passage and to provide greater salmon population and a thriving free-flowing river, that impact, at least to the state of California, I'm sure is well over $500,000 in costs for raising those fry. I would hope that there would be some type of assurance that a provision could be made from FERC that protecting the species should be first and foremost as well with this project, as well as human safety. And I don't know that we capture that. I'm not trying to be critical of the process. I'm just trying to acknowledge that for decades, we've been under the microscope for fish habitat and saving fish. And quite frankly, we don't want that accident to happen again. So I'll leave it at that.
So before we take this, before you guys make the board makes their motion, I need to amend what I'm asking the board for. So in addition to the minor edits that I detailed before, I'm asking for the board to approve the letter with the addition of fire-related issues and fire protection, including deep water pools, and the unaddressed issues of installation and maintenance of infrastructure provided by KRRC. We will attach the email from Mr. Bransom and include a line or two about it in the body of the letter. We will also address in one of our requests that health issues related to dam removal be addressed by the Plan of Mitigation Fund. And we will include our request to KRRC and KRRC's commitment to perform a round of testing and our continued request to perform additional testing. And we will also include language regarding fishery recovery and assurances regarding fishery recovery, and that issues or fish don't recover in the manner and time anticipated by dam removal entities, but there's assurances for the public and water users. That's included as part of my request to the board.
Any other questions? Comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for. Go ahead.
Question, can I just copy that letter from me? Yes, you may.
You want the new one. Here's the old one, sorry. Okay.
So Supervisor Bell?
Aye.
Supervisor Valenzuela?
Sure.
Chris?
Aye.
Elbert? And Supervisor Cox?
Thank you.
Thank you. You okay, Ms. Mindy?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna move, I know there's some people here for public hearing, so I want to move on to item 11.
11A.
11A, yeah.
Surprise.
I'll be removing the thoughts of the list.
And so that will be A,
To Z,
E,
and then go back to.
got it.
Yeah, I thought I laid them out in there.
That's perfect. Okay, Supervisor Chris recused himself from those items. And we'll open the hearing. First one is item 11A, community development planning and public hearing to consider two resolutions, one approving an amendment to an existing agricultural preserve and one approving a rescission and re-entry. Existing Williamson Act contract application APA 232. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Bernadette Sisson, Associate Planner. For the sake of efficiency, real quick, I'm gonna let you know that the first three projects we're gonna go over this morning are as a result of the denial of the proposed Williamson Act contract amendment for Wildlands Conservancy. The remainder of the property owners under that contract were notified that pursuant to county policy, upon denial of a contract amendment, a notice of non-renewal will be issued for the entire contract. They were provided time to apply for their own contracts, which these three property owners did. And so we're going to start with Tom Hayden. He proposes that his 2,383 acres be rescinded from the existing contract and a separate contract he issued, which consists solely of his property with the continued use of rangeland and pasture for livestock production and forage. Additionally, the agricultural preserve does not meet current standards as property within that preserve is not adjacent and not owned in common. Staff recommends amending the existing ag preserve to remove Tom Hayden's property and create an individual ag preserve and corresponding contract. Staff also recommends determining this project exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15317, open space easements or contracts, and adopt resolutions approving the rescission of the applicant's property and re-entry of the new Williams Snack contract and amendment to the ag preserve. There is a recommended motion in the agenda sheet. Thank you.
Presentation of correspondence. Presentation of reports, arguments, or evidence by staff of other county departments or public agencies. No, none in-house, none online. Opponents, arguments, and or evidence. And in-house, online.
Showing none online.
Opponents, arguments, and
Showing none online.
would you indicate how they would get online, just in case there is somebody on there that doesn't know how to use it?
Absolutely. If anybody on Zoom would like to raise your hand to be considered for public comment, if you would please press *9, or I believe if you're on a computer device, there is a icon where you can raise your hand.
Public comment. Any public comment in-house? None. Any public online?
Showing none online.
But by proponent or by opponents? None. And are we closing this hearing? Yes. Okay. And discussion by board members. Your help. Thank you. That's my discussion. These four have been agonizing for you and me. And I appreciate all the work that's been done. Back on board.
Absolutely.
Other board discussion? Not, I'm looking for action by the board. I have a motion. A second.
And that was the recommended question.
Very good.
Thank you. Supervisor Howell.
Aye.
Supervisor Valenzuela.
Okay.
Supervisor Ober. Aye. And Supervisor Cox.
Aye. Item B, community development, public hearing, consideration of 2 resolutions approving an amendment to an existing agricultural preserve and one approving the rescission and the entry of an existing Williamson contract number APA 23-22.
All right, Bernadette is in again. Charles Hayden's property is under the same contract. Mr. Hayden proposes his 3,305 acres be rescinded from the contract and a separate contract be issued consisting solely of his property with the use of rangeland. He too is under the same agricultural preserve, which should be amended to remove his property and to create an individual preserve and corresponding contract. Staff recommends determining the project exempt pursuant to the CEQA exemption for open space easements or contracts. And there's a recommended motion in the worksheets. Thank you.
Thank you. Any correspondence?
No correspondence for this one either.
Presentation of reports, arguments, or evidence by staff of other county departments or public agencies. Anyone in-house? Anyone online? None. Opponents, arguments, and or evidence. Anyone in-house? None. Anyone online?
Showing none online.
Opponents, arguments, and or evidence. Anyone in-house? Online?
Showing none online.
Public comment. Anyone in-house? None. Anyone online?
Showing none online.
None. No rebuttal by proponents and no rebuttal by opponents. And then we'll close the hearing. Discussion or action by the board. To approve. I have a motion to approve. I have a second. Supervisor Copeland.
All right, Supervisor Couch.
All right.
Supervisor Valenzuela.
Okay.
Supervisor Oakland. Supervisor Cox.
Aye. Item 11C, public hearing to consider two resolutions, one approving an amendment to an existing ag reserve and one approving revision and re-entry in existing agreements and that contract under application APA-23-23.
Thank you, Bernadette Susan again. Arlene Ernest property is also under this contract. She proposes to have her 160 acres rescinded from the contract and a separate contract be issued for her property with the use of rangeland and pasture. As this property is under the same agricultural preserve, it too should be amended to remove Mrs. Ernest's property and create an individual preserve and corresponding contract. The same CEQA exemption applies for open space easements or contracts, and there is a recommended motion in the worksheet. Thank you.
Thank you. Presentation of correspondence.
Not technically correspondence, but we did have one return to sender unable to forward, and that would be our public hearing notification letter. Robert and Carol Munson from Bush Creek.
Presentation of reports, arguments, or evidence by staff of other county departments or other public agencies. Anyone in-house? Seeing none. Anyone online?
Showing none online.
Opponents, arguments, and or evidence. Anyone in-house? None. Online.
Showing none online.
Opponents, arguments, and or evidence. Anyone in-house? Seeing
Showing none online.
public comment. Anyone in-house? None. Anyone online?
Showing none online.
There is no rebuttal by proponents or opponents. There is none that raise their hand, and we will close the hearing. Back to the board.
Just a quick comment with the physical address for
The one that was returned.
Oh, and I think you pulled from the assessors.
From the assessors, yeah.
the property still.
Second.
And again, that's the recommended motion. All right, Supervisor Hall.
Right.
Supervisor Valenzuela.
Okay.
Supervisor Oakland and Supervisor Thompson.
All right. We're at 11D, community development planning, public hearing to reconsider resolution of directing staff to issue a notice of non-renewal properties under related to that contract number 71018, 71036, 71051, 71061A, 71061B, 72043, 76024, 77037, 78034, and 78028. Bernadette.
Bernadette Susan, Associate Planner. Staff continue to monitor properties under Williams-Neck contract for compliance. The following properties are being recommended for issuance of a notice of non-renewal, each for a specific reason, which I will go over individually. Please let me know if you have a question about an individual property as I go along. To start with, it's the Metcalf property under 71018. We have not received a response from the property owner regarding a legitimate agricultural use on the property. So we were unable to verify that. 71036 for Ontario Limited. They too have not responded to the surveys. Additionally, there's a substandard size parcel on the property, so it wouldn't meet minimum requirements. Contract 71051 for Eastlick. It's a 3.67 acre parcel, so it does not meet minimum requirements. Additionally, we have not received a response to our request for ag use information by survey. Contract number 71061A, 71061B, and 72043. The portions of those are owned by Hester. There are issues with that contract in that there's multiple property owners under it. There's substandard parcels, and additionally, only a portion of a 626 acre parcel is under contract. In order to bring it into compliance, the board would have to approve increasing the property substantially that's under. And Mr. Hester has not responded to requests for additional information. When he filled out his survey, he filled out there was intensive farming, and so we requested that ag commissioner check that out for us, which they did, and they responded that there was other uses but not intensive farming. Mr. Sabatos, under contract 76024, there's a open code compliance case on this property, and there's not been a verified commercial ag use. Contract 77037 is Rescue Ranch. They do not use it for agricultural purposes. Contract 78034 Stafford. This property is substandard in size, and and the county tax collector also commented that the taxes are delinquent. Hartman 78028. This property has two property owners, or excuse me, this contract has two property owners under it, which is a compliance issue. And also the Hartman property is a 70.8 acre parcel, and only 40 acres is under contract. So in order for it to become compliant, they would have to substantiate a commercial ag use on the property, and the board would have to approve to increase the contract by 30.8 acres. So almost doubling. So anyhow, staff recommends that the board adopt the resolution directing staff to issue a notice of non-renewal for the properties listed in Exhibit A1 to the draft resolutions. Staff also recommends determining this project exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15317 open space easements or contracts, and adopt resolutions, and adopt the resolution directing staff to issue the notice of non-renewal. Thank you.
And could you include in your staff report on more comments of non-renewal, what occurred after?
Yeah, so once a notice of non-renewal is reported, it becomes effective the first day of the renewal date of the contract, which is January 1st each year. And so that'll be the first date of the non-renewal period, which is 9 years. So the taxes will incrementally increase over those 9 years. At the end of the 9-year period, the contract will no longer be effective, and the taxes will be at a normal tax rate.
And is there any, can you include in your report as well, is there the opportunity for someone that missed their opportunity to come back at this within that 9 years?
Yes, so anyone who's in, according to the current county guidelines, if you're in an ag preserve, you can apply for a Williams and Act contract. So they have the opportunity to, depending on their situation, provide proof of a legitimate ag use, and we would review their property to see that it meets the minimum requirements regarding soils and acreage requirements, and they could request their own contract be issued.
Presentation of correspondence.
Again, not necessarily correspondence, but I had two of our letters, notification letters returned. One is John and Ginger McCarthy. The other is Jacob and Stacy Russell. Back is up.
Presentation of reports, arguments, or evidence by staff of other county departments or public agencies. Anyone in-house? Anyone online?
Showing none online.
Proponents, arguments, and/or evidence. In-house? Anyone online?
Showing none online.
Opponents, arguments, and/or evidence. Anyone in-house?
Showing none online.
Public comment. Anyone in-house? Anyone online?
Showing none online.
None around. No rebuttal by proponent and no. Back to the rule. Any discussion? And if not,
How it ever got into place. Any agriculture.
it was brought into Williams-Net contract with multiple other parcels. With the ag use it was not brought in under timber production. It doesn't meet the minimum parcel size requirement to be in TPZ zoning. For Williams-Net guidance.
Thank you. And then on the Hartman property, satisfied with the ag report that, was qualifier.
To clarify, if it's the California equine policy lays it out that if there is profit made, they have to show income. There can't be a loss on an equine industry to be considered commercial. So it would be for breeding or training purposes, and they would have to substantiate that with some sort of proof of income. No.
Contract.
Part of the updating. We haven't looked at the Williamson Act in a long time, but this has been an ongoing process.
Since I've been on the board. I'll make the recommendation.
Okay, so.
All right, President Cox.
All right.
Supervisor Valenzuela.
Yes.
Supervisor Oben. And Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Thank you, Mrs. Stone. You're doing a great job on this. I know you're gonna make a career out of this.
I know, right?
There's enough contract.
Have your own Williamson contract, right?
That's not a lot. You don't take it anymore, right?
We can make it acceptable.
I gotta find some profit.